Hey YouTube, it's Magician34, and I have, since September 2012 ban list is on its way very soon, I'm giving you sort of a perspective ban list. I've created this ban list myself on my own. This is not a reflection of the ban list to come, and if you're watching this video after the ban list is released, this is not the actual ban list, so please don't comment saying, this isn't what the ban list is at all. Okay, so this is the September 12 ban list that I think both Konami and the players would both get something out of and would both enjoy. Um, so here we go. First of all, we're going to start with the ban stuff. First on the list, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. He's been scarring the game ever since he came back. He's ridiculous. He's basically an auto win a lot of times. He's an unbalanced card, and he's unfair. And that realistically is all the more reason you should need to put him back on the ban list. I know he's a lot of fun to play, but he's not fair. And that's one of the prime reasons something should be on the ban list in the first place. He's unbalanced and he's unfair. Next up, long overdue, realistically, is Sangan. Even though he gets things with low attack, his search ability with Tour Guide has made him even more broke than usual. He's in almost every deck, which is one of those hallmark signs of things that should be on the ban list. Sangan really needs to go, and if he doesn't, then Tour Guide would need a significant reduction, which isn't necessarily fair to Tour Guide itself. Um, this card's just silly, and the fact that it activates no matter how it goes from the field to the yard is also ridiculous. It just needs to go. It's unbalanced. There are other options out there. Alright, next up we have Bryanak, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. He does have a pretty silly, pretty broke effect, but that's not necessarily the reason I put him on the ban list. I put him on the ban list because there are a couple of cards that can come off the ban list if he goes away. And also I think Konami would like this being banned because it weakens synchro monsters, which is kind of their thrust right now to encourage players to play the XC stuff and the new cards. So I think Bryanak could really be on the ban list, plus he facilitates way too many OTKs and big smash plays because he can bounce anything at all. Next, Future Fusion. This card is basically should be banned and should have been banned for a long time, and everybody's really wanted it banned for a long time because it's 5 foolish burials for at least one deck, arguably two, and dragons just don't need this now, especially now they have all this other ammunition. Get rid of this and you balance that one deck all by itself. Next up, Monster Reborn. It's almost as bad as Blackluster Soldier realistically. It's just overpowered, unbalanced. Yes, it can reach your opponent's grave, which means that arguably putting it out can help both sides and could make players play cautiously, but you realize that doesn't happen. It's almost always a game-winning card, and it just does everything too much too easily for no cost. Cards like this need to go to help balance the game. Mind Control needs to be banned. It's just in this era with synchros, yes, but also now with Xyzes too. It's just too much, too good, easy removal at no cost. It too needs to go. And we do have replacements for a lot of these. Last but not least, Heavy Storm. I'm not banning Heavy Storm intrinsically, but rather banning Heavy Storm allows another card to come back, which you can probably already guess. Which this card and the other card are virtually the same thing right now in the current format. So basically, banning Heavy Storm allows another card the opportunity to come back, and so that's a trade-off banning there. And we'll get to that in just a sec. So only 7 cards banned. Coming back is Dark Magician of Chaos. Demok really has no reason to be banned right now other than maybe Monster Reborn. His effect is not broke, he's not too... I mean, the fact that he's an 8-star monster is basically his control, and the fact that he banishes himself. As long as you don't have like Dimension Fusion to go with him, he's pretty fair, he's pretty balanced, enough so that he can go from 0 to 1. Also, Tsukuyomi can come back. Yeah, he has a couple of irritating combos, I guess, but there are just way too many controls for him right now, and he doesn't... This is not the same era wherein he got banned. He's mostly on the ban list now, I think, as a memory, and sort of a tribute to the players who disliked him so much from having to suffer through him in Monarch days, but these are not those days anymore, and his impact right now would actually be very minimal. So, he can definitely afford to go from 0 to 1. He doesn't deserve a full banning. Next up is Tribe Infecting Virus. This does control a lot of tribal decks out there, but more importantly, it just doesn't deserve a banning. Its cost is more than a control for it. This would be interesting with the new fish decks that are coming out right now, but realistically, this card is balanced enough that If Blacklister Soldier was fair for the last year or so, this guy can definitely be back for at least one format. I mean, that's part of the quest right now for Konami and whatnot anyways, to bring back banned cards for at least one last tour of duty. Magician of Faith. She's a set flip card. She is definitely not broken. I mean, Mask of Darkness is at 3, and he has a lot more power than most people give him credit for. Granted, her flip gets you something you can instantly play, but you can't just flip her the turn you set her, which would be the only way she'd be broke right now in this exceedingly fast-paced format. She doesn't deserve to be banned anymore. Spore, this card, as long as Gullet Bulb is gone, doesn't need to be banned anyway, because plants aren't that strong. It's a one-shot with a built-in control. It definitely can afford to come back to 1. It coming back will not encourage synchros enough that it's going to threaten the new Xyz monsters. Goyo Guardian can come back. He was actually falling out of playability and becoming a lot more balanced at the time he was banned. He was more banned sort of as a salute to the trouble he had been before he got banned. But getting rid of Bryanek especially allows him to come back. Rescue Cat's not back anyway, so he's balanced at 1. And there's a lot of stuff that's big enough or small, and a lot of people are complaining, well, this guy's broke with Xyz monsters. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Steal something you might Xyz with from your opponent during your second main phase? That's kind of crappy. And if you run over an Xyz monster, you're going to bring it back with no materials. I know everyone's going to jump on that broken play. Next up is Thousand Eyes Restrict. The only argument for keeping him banned right now, since Metamorphosis is gone anyway, is Instant Fusion. And one Instant Fusion play just to bring him out once really is not nearly broken enough to justify him being banned. Besides, you'd either have to run one random Instant Fusion to get him, or run multiples to increase your chances of hitting him, in which case you have to take up very precious extra deck room to fit multiple fusion targets for Instant Fusion. And in the ever increasingly crowded extra deck, that's actually going to balance the instant fusion factor. The card we banned Heavy Storm for is Harpy's Feather Duster. Now I know what you're thinking, oh, that card's too broke, it doesn't even blow up your own stuff. Heavy Storm's more balanced. But most of the OTK decks right now don't run any back rows anyway, so Heavy Storm is Harpy's Feather Duster. So essentially this card is out now. Only control decks really care about that backlash, but control decks are the ones that really need the encouragement right now. Plus, this allows those OTK-ish fast decks to run back rows, which means they'll be running them, which means they'll actually slow down a turn or two, which makes the format more balanced. So this card can actually come back. This and Heavy Storm are almost the same, but obviously you can't have both simultaneously. It's a little too much oomph. Also, Snatch Steal can come back with MST at 3 and either Duster or Storm. Snatch Steal's balanced and it can't get set stuff like Mind Control can. And it doesn't do anything to stop a lot of the meta out there right now anyway. It's just a grab and it's very easy to upset. So that card can easily come back. Premature Burial can also come back on similar grounds. Now obviously these two guys can't come back, especially this one when the Bryanek still around. Dulorin is still a factor. I didn't put him on the list because I don't know everything about what's coming in the next 6 months. But depending on what TCG exclusives and whatnot come out, yes, Dulorin might need to be on the ban list to allow these two to come back, or at least be limited to 1. But not factoring that in, because those are unknowns at this point, Premature Burial is balanced enough that yes, it can very much come back as long as Bryanek's not around to abuse it. It's a lot more balanced, a lot more fair, a lot more upsettable and vulnerable, and therefore balanced than Monster Reborn is. So, I mean, on most days, the most abuse you're going to get out of this is no different from Monster Reborn anyway. And last, Imperial Order. A lot of decks can completely ignore this card anyway. It can afford to come back at 1 just because, basically, because there's no reason for it to be banned anymore, realistically. Yes, if you go first and set it, it can be useful for stalling your opponent, say 1, maybe 2 turns, but it disrupts you pretty much just as much. These aren't the days like it was when Imperial Order was banned, so it can definitely afford to come back. A lot of decks rely so heavily on monsters, and there's so much removal that is monster effect based. Imperial Order is not really a threat at all. So all these can come back from 0 to 1. And part 2 is to be posted soon.